welcome back to the studio sessions. My name is Brooke. Every week we talk about making movies, the film industry, and why we love movies so much. This week, I actually want to start a new segment on the show called the Studio Notes. So, Studio Notes is going to be top of show highlights from the industry within the last week. So it'll be just a couple of headlines that are making the rounds, things people are talking about, things that are happening, news on different happenings within the industry, and just notable things going on. It'll only be a few minutes, but I feel like it'll be really fun to kind of have as a part of the show. So, that being said, we are going to start the show with studio notes. The first studio note has to be Super Mario Galaxy movie, making $190 million in box office. Its opening 5-day extended run because of the holiday. So, Super Mario Galaxy movie came out April 1st. Within the first 3 days, so just that weekend, it made 130.9 million. Just domestic, let alone global. 190 million in the extended 5-day release opening because of the holiday. And 372 million worldwide. And it's being quoted as being, with the 190 million opening, the biggest debut of the year so far, which honestly isn't surprising. I think everybody was kind of excited for this. I know my kids are really excited for it because of our holiday plans and everything. We have not gotten to go to the theater yet, but we are planning and hoping to. So I know whenever we see it, they'll be excited to see it, but it would be fun to be able to take them to the theater again. So that was incredible. It was really cool to see something box office do really well in that way. I feel like it's a good note for the beginning of 2026. We are not fully yet complete with Q1 of 2026, and we have massive openings in box office happening. Scream 7 made massive numbers, the biggest of its franchise. Super Mario had the biggest 5-day release, the biggest opening of the year so far with 190 million. It's given me hope, guys. It feels like a good start. So, not bad. And of course, it is still IP, right? Like it is still the recognizable name and everything. It's legacy, it's franchise. But if it's done well, again, if it's done well and it serves the story, that is where it gets better for me, not just arbitrarily. Anyways, the next headline I wanted to talk about is there was a massive amount of talk about the Writers Guild not only closing their negotiations, like coming to an agreement with the studios, but getting some interesting things out of it. They got a 4-year contract instead of a 3-year contract, which means they have to come back to the table a little farther out. There's a little more time before new negotiations. And I think in a lot of ways that could be good. Gives it steady time period where that's not looming. And I mean, hopefully, it means that if there is some strife, it'll be a longer gap between another pending strike, right? Like, feels like we just got done with the last strike and people were talking about, oh, hopefully that doesn't happen again. And so it just is nice to see that be a little bit longer of a window. And I think the studios were really happy about that in particular. And the Writers Guild got things like for their health care and things like that taken care of. So overall, it's good to hear there was not a strike and that there was things given on both sides that helped the other. that I think will be a really healthy thing for the industry to try to move forward. And then I have not yet done a deep dive on this on the podcast, but the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni situation hit kind of a big moment this last week when the judge overseeing the case threw out, like, dismissed all but three of Blake Lively's claims against Justin Baldoni, which was all of the harassment claims, and only left one that were not against Justin Baldoni personally. It was all like Wayfair, Sony. And yes, he's implicated in those, but not personally. So all of the ones to do with Justin Baldoni personally are now done. Those got dismissed and will not have any chance of seeing a light of day in trial. What got left was the claims of retaliation, which is interesting. And we'll see how the rest of this plays out. I know that they were in settlement talks again. I believe that's happened a few times already through this process where the judge is like, okay, I really want you guys to discuss, to talk, to meet, and see if you can come to a settlement. But nothing has been reported that they have come to a settlement so far. And if they don't on those remaining three claims, those three claims are what will actually be going to trial in May. So next month, pending a settlement not happening or anything like that, those claims that have to do with the retaliation claims will go to trial. So we'll see how all of that plays out. I think this does get interesting when you think of how this impacts the industry on a broader scale. There's this one particular situation happening, but I think in general, it's going to make people more aware, right? Like it's going to make them more conscious of every little bit of everything. It's going to make people more scared of liability. It's going to make people carefully choose who they work with. And I think it'll be kind of just a another feed or another part of the change in celebrity culture we've had. This has been a really hard journey. It's been a long road. It's been a really long road of obstacles and delays, and it's been hard. Which now gets into what I want to discuss the rest of today's episode is how celebrity, how media, how Hollywood culture in general has changed because of the change in technology, the change in media coverage, the change in how we approach the celebrity culture in general. I feel like the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni scenario is just one symptom of that whole thing. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the next scenario like this happens because there will be other cases of a back and forth on set. I don't know if I really want to try to speak to specifically how harassment claims might be handled, but how you deal with back and forths on set, how you approach working with people in the industry, I would not be surprised to see a change in that or a shift in that or kind of a hardening of some contracts and rules and things to better protect everybody involved. So that'll be interesting to see. But I think this happens because we have really changed how celebrity culture functions in our society now. It used to be a celebrity was this inaccessible, unattainable thing, person that we looked up to, that we saw the good in, right? And modeled ourselves after, really. And now, with the advent of better technology, with the prominence of social media, with the 24-hour news cycle, that's changed. Now you have YouTube celebrities that are outside the Hollywood system completely, but are arguably just as big of a celebrity, if not bigger, than some of the Hollywood celebrities. And you have Instagram influencers and TikTok influencers and this whole other side to that celebrity style culture that is kind of making it less distant. The celebrities don't feel as unattainable. And with the advent of social media, a lot of celebrities to promote their work, to engage their audience that they know will come out for something, they are starting to use social media more and more. A lot of them had taken a while to jump on, and especially recently, I've noticed the patterns of different celebrities using their social media to engage with that audience more because of how much of a difference that makes. And it's interesting to see that shift because it's no longer inaccessible, unattainable, right? They're right there. I can open my phone, open the app, and I see what they posted. I see what they're doing. I see what they're working on. It feels like I'm having a conversation with them. So much different than before, where you're reading about things in magazines. You're getting tailored interviews, tailored articles that give you that access instead of something more everyday like Instagram. But also, you're seeing the imperfections more. It is much harder to hide the things that people are going to have a chance to look at negatively. It's much easier to have moments of that where you are interacting in a way that gives you like, oh yeah, this will be good for some people, not for others. You're giving more of a chance for that, and so it evens the playing field some. It doesn't feel as big, as grandiose. And I know this conversation started a couple years ago with a lot of people that I saw talking about the death of the movie star because don't really have that phenomenon happening as much anymore. The ones that you can say do still have that effect are late 40s, early 50s, and older. And typically, there's some that are a little bit younger still, like the Disney Channel era, like Hilary Duff, that I would say is still gonna feel that way, but it is, kind of a rare a rare breed of that generation that is still left working, but also has that effect. That's a whole other side to the conversation, but just the idea in general of the idea of celebrity has changed so much. And this can directly impact how films are made and what decisions are made when making films, who you're going to cast, what movies you might make might change because there might be a movie that you don't know if you have enough interest in it without a big movie star, things like that. And so I think this is feeding what we're seeing in Hollywood in general with the movies, the TV shows that are being produced. The other part of this, which comes back to the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni thing, is controversies travel faster. Projects take years sometimes to make. Controversies can be all over the news within 60 seconds. 24-hour news cycle. It's constant. And so I think a lot of that is going to be taken into consideration when studios, directors are choosing who to work with, and producers are casting things or filling roles in the crew or whatever they're looking for. I think more and more of that's going to be taken into consideration. So you're going to see different film choices because if you don't have the big celebrity, you're looking at other things to make the movie work and successful. But also safe casting choices with who you think isn't going to be likely to have drama or problems happen. And studios are already risk averse, especially in the last 4, 5, 10 years. They've been extremely risk averse, and that I don't think is going to be an area they slow down in that on. Even if they start taking bigger risks with the films themselves they make, I don't think the people they work with, the people they cast, employ, I don't think that risk aversity is going to change. And so you could see maybe certain people being cast over others. So, how do you move forward in that idea? What do you use from this to approach filmmaking? Well, you have to think that you want to make sure you are keeping those things in mind when you're looking at projects and deciding how you want to move forward with it. I think just knowing how the industry is moving in general for that is very, very important. But I also think, as far as the celebrity culture goes, you have to weigh like what are audiences within that actually engaging with? Is it the actors themselves they're engaging with anymore? Or is it the story? Or is it the music? Or whatever part of the film draws them in more? I think you have to really look at what is audience is actually paying attention to. Because for a very long time it was the actors. Now I think it's less so. And unfortunately, you do have to think about, does an actor being on social media, being active, engaged with their followers, break the ability to immerse into the film that they might be in and actually see them as their character instead of just themselves? Now, that note is interesting though, because I never saw that as a negative personally before. Like, there are certain people I would absolutely focus on watching their movies. Like, I would follow what movies they were making, and if they were in it, it meant I wanted to see it. That kind of celebrity, like movie star type idea, where if a certain actor is in a movie, they can get people to come no matter what the movie is about, basically, because people are coming for them, not the film itself. I think that idea hasn't completely disappeared, but I would say almost. It is different when you're looking at, oh, now they know so much about them in social media. It goes beyond just knowing they're an actor, which I never had a problem with when that was the case. Like, I always knew, oh, I know they're playing this character, but I'm gonna see them and think their name. Like, that's just me. And I think there's a difference in that though versus a lot more about their personal life than before. It feels more like a parasocial relationship than it did. Things like that. it can shift some. So, the positive aspect is there are good things to note about this for notes you can take for moving forward as a filmmaker. Authenticity matters like above all, pretty much anything else. More so now than I think it ever has. And more niche things are getting a greater appeal. It is currently much easier to build a thriving, growing, big niche audience versus just having general mass appeal. If you do that one thing really well for this specific audience, you're going to have better success than if you try to do something that appeals to everybody. And story is greater than celebrity value in most or many cases. I think, again, there are maybe a handful left that I would say that wouldn't pertain to, not many. And I don't think the generation coming up behind them has anyone in that I would say would change that and that would also apply to. So the interesting part about the whole death of the movie star thing is the one crowd is getting older and there's not really people coming up behind them replacing them as a movie star in the same way. And so that's where more focus has been on the story, has been on the film itself, the movie, instead of celebrity value. I guess instead of whether celebrity is changing, because I think we all know it is, did we even need it or do we even need it in the same way anymore to tell meaningful stories? I would say a lot of the cases we're seeing right now with films and TV shows, the answer is no, because there is still very meaningful stories being told without any celebrity value being an aspect in it at all. So, those are my thoughts on that. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was interesting. If you have any other suggestions at all for future episodes, leave it in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed so you see when the next episode comes out. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye. The Studio Sessions is a Butterfly Entertainment production. You can keep up with all of our podcasts, YouTube videos, films, and other projects on our Instagram page. We are at Butterfly Entertainment Group. Thanks for listening.